Prahran Football Club story began on March 20, 1886. Tonight, some 116 years later, we celebrate Prahran's Team of the Century. During those 116 years, Prahran has enjoyed the highs of 8 premierships, the most recent in 1987. But it has also endured the lows of twice being forced to leave the Victorian Football Association, only to be readmitted each time. And twice the club has gone into recess. But through all the peaks and troughs, the club has survived. Today, Prahran fields 3 senior teams in C grade of the Victorian Amateur Football Association and 5 junior teams ranging from under 9s to under 15s. The club also conducts a community and sport program in 28 Stonington and district schools, and this year formed a partnership with the Deakin Prahran Devils women's football team. But let's go back in time again. The royal blue and sky blue colours of Prahran were worn for the first time on May 1, 1886 against reigning Premier Geelong, but failed to score. It was a sure sign the early days were going to be tough. Indeed, 2 years later, Prahran was ordered to amalgamate with St Kilda. It was not until 11 years later, in March 1899, that the Mayor of Prahran, Councillor Thomas Simmons, called a meeting of some 500 people and resolved to reform the club. Prahran was back in the VFA and in May that year played its first match at Toorak Park. More than a century later, Toorak Park is still home to Prahran. Aptly, Toorak Park was the venue for the club's first premiership in 1937. The Two Blues triumphed by 2 points over Brunswick, cheered on by a crowd of 9,000. The next flag came in 1951, Australia's Jubilee year. In 1959, Prahran won the Metropolitan League Grand Final, earlier in the year being voted out of the VFA because the Prahran Council of the day accepted a far greater rental offer from Melbourne Rugby Union Club. Wisdom prevailed the next year and Prahran returned to Toorak Park. A second division flag followed in 1966. The 1970s proved the club's golden era in a time of unprecedented popularity in the VFA. 3 VFA premiership flags flew high at Toorak Park in that decade: 1970, 1973 and 1978. And what a game that was. We won the fights and the footy. Over 116 years, Prahran has forged a rich, proud and colourful history. Along the journey, the club has produced no fewer than 61 players, including Kevin Sheedy and Wayne Johnston, who began their senior careers at Prahran and went on to VFL, AFL glory. Some of those stars are among the 116 nominated players vying for the honour of selection in the Team of the Century. Tonight we salute those players and the club's 8 premiership teams. Let the siren sound to start Prahran's Night of the Century.
Good evening. Big crowd, isn't it? Welcome to the Heath, as they said, for a night in a century. Tonight a lot of old faces are reunited as the Two Blues look back on over 100 years and try to piece together a team that would do justice to the hundreds and hundreds of players who've worn the jumper since the club was founded over a century ago. As you saw, its VFA roots go back to 1886, and in the years that followed they were in and out of the competition. Tonight we'll be joined by some of Prahran's greatest. We'll play tribute to the past champions. We'll hear from a couple of blokes who've kicked on with their football endeavours, and let me tell you, we'll have a bloody good night. The goals will be more plentiful, the angles more acute, and the marks, well, they'll be just indescribable. The tall stories have already started and they're taking up where the memory has already failed. A huge crowd, as I said, some special guests. I'd like to single them out. Shh, thank you. This is the VIP list we're about to read. Thank you. From the Stonington City Council, Chris Garn and Claude Ullen, councillors. From the Prahran Cricket Club, the President, Ian Crawford, and Club Secretary, David Jukes. We have a couple of apologies. They are notable, so we will mention them, but a lot of people couldn't make it tonight, mainly because we're booked out. The Mayor of Stonington, Councillor Sally Davis, couldn't make it. Peter Katsimbarnis, the MLC. Former players and coaches, Graham Yates, BT, Brian Taylor, the Barge, means more food for everyone. Slamming Sam Kekovich, the 1978 Premiership. Pat and Julie Sheedy, they're overseas. and Robert Ralston, former president. These nights don't happen by chance. They take hours and days and weeks of blood, sweat and tears from so many people. And a driving force behind tonight's function is the president of the Prahran Football Club. Would you give him a big welcome, Tim Hable.
Thank you, Stephen. Special guests, fellow Prahran supporters. Tonight we celebrate perhaps the most significant night in the 116 years of the Prahran Football Club. To the players and partners, past and present, this is your night. To the past and present administrators at senior and junior level, the life members, sponsors, supporters, everyone here tonight shares in this special occasion. There are so many famous Prahran names represented here tonight. We have children, great-grandchildren of club legends, which all helps to make the night so special. The selection criteria for the team of the century and the 116 nominated players was based on 50 games, a minimum of 50 games service or a best and fairest award. And the actual selection for the team of 24 was based obviously on a length of service, outstanding ability, extra credits to premiership players and club and competition award winners. And that unenviable task of the selection fell to 4 club legends, Jack Morgans, Ray Ryan, Ray Harvey and Charlie Roach. There's more than 200 years service to this football club between those 4 gentlemen. Not everyone may agree with their selection, although I think they've chosen a very good and very worthy team. But certainly there would be no more qualified people to choose this team. So to today's players, I hope tonight gives you a better understanding of what this football club is about, that this is a football club worth representing, a football club worth fighting for. Thank you. Enjoy the evening. I'm sure this is going to be a night to remember.
Okay, Mick, let's go to the back pocket. Our first, this is the, I don't know if he's back pocket small or back pocket tall. I had a look at him before. I think he might be back pocket big.
Is that B1?
Yeah, I think that's B1.
B1, okay.
Let me have a look at it first just to make sure.
We've got the right one.
It is indeed.
The back pocket B1 is Vin Crow.
Vin Crow, a tough, fearless player, just as home in the back pocket or in the centre. He was runner-up in the best and fairest in his first year at Prahran in '69, an integral part of the '70 premiership team in the back pocket. He was runner-up to Laurie Hill in the Liston medal. He missed the '73 premiership, spent 2 years as captain coach down in North Hobart, and he returned to the Two Blues in '74 and went through to '75. Inducted into Prahran's Team of the Century, Vin Crow. Thanks, mate. You just give him the thing and I'll let him in here.
Yeah,
Vin, as you said to Mick, what an excellent choice, and I couldn't agree more. Jump in here a bit, mate. Thanks. We look back on the VFA and we think back the 60s and early 70s. It could develop into something of a bloodbath. That's why I think Channel 10 liked televising it.
Football was different then, and but men were men, and they, the ones who stood up sort of finished in front. And fortunately, I played with a lot of, I didn't think it'd ever come my way, and I didn't expect it. And I came along to support a couple of my very good friends for this, and they supported me whatever happened at Prahran, and nothing was too tough on the ground for them.
You had Kevin arrive at the club just after you, and 1970 was some year, wasn't it?
1970 was a sensational year, and Kevin, which was Kevin?
He's Kevin down there, the old bloke. This old bloke.
There he is.
Oh, this is shocking.
No,
Rosie, the whole family.
Rosie was there before I got there, and I was very pleased to come along and be part of the organisation, which was Prahran. My first impressions, and I suppose a lot of other people are going to speak tonight, and I don't want to take too much time, but my first impressions of Prahran, and I've said this before, was we had a game and a guy gave me a jumper. Later on he gave me a drink. He had a chat to me, and later on also he picked up my boots and walked away, and I said to, I think it was Dirty Dick Colburn, because Dirty is probably one of my best mates, and who bought me a beer, the first beer I had at Prahran, and we're still drinking together, which is great. And I said, who's that fellow? And he said, that's Jackie Morgans, he's the president and he does everything here. And that's sort of the way Prahran were at the time, and I think they still are. And Rosie was part of that. He put together a great bunch of guys, and I'm pleased to say most of the people at that time are still my best friends.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the back pocket in Prahran's team of the century, Vin Crow. Okay, plenty of good full-backs too. They had a hell of a time picking this one. Oh. Vin.
You can trust me, Jack.
You have a look at Vin and you know you have got an honest, tough back pocket player. He's just bending the rules a little bit. Sorry, on the plaque we've covered up the names because Jack wants to be totally surprised that he wasn't bloody selected, Jack. Okay, full-back in the team of the century. Who is it, Mick?
The fullback in the team of the century is the magnificent Kerry Foley. Kerry's son. Nathan.
Kerry Foley, rated the finest fullback in his era in the VFA. A key member of the 1978 Premiership team, long kicking, precise defensive work were the hallmarks of his game. In the 1978 Grand Final, when Preston made one last grasp at victory, they found Foley in the way. Have a look at him here in action.
We've on the 2-2 with Prahran on 6 goals 3. And there's the gentleman waving the flag, Max Anderson, celebrating his 200th
corner of the 1978 Grand Final. Foley putting the ball back into play. A kick out towards McGuinness, number 38, up as Lorenzini. Not able to pull the mark in. McGuinness, a handball away to Kelvin Clark.
Okay, and accepting for Kerry, who's in Las Vegas at the moment on holidays, is his son Nathan. Nathan, come in here, mate. Nathan, I tell you what, I had a look at him in action then, and he is just a shadow of the man he is today.
Certainly is.
Has he put on a bit of beef in the last 20 years?
He's been enjoying himself, yes. Yeah, he has. He's put on a little bit.
So where is he holidaying at the moment?
They've been planning a trip to Europe for a long time with some friends.
Well, we weren't far off, Las Vegas.
We weren't. I'm sure he's doing much the same thing. So he made his thorough apologies, but just wanted to thank everybody here tonight, and yeah, unfortunately couldn't be here.
Well done, you'll take that home. Don't take the paper off, otherwise no. Jack Morgan will come up here and rip them off for you.
Not a problem.
Well done. Kerry Foley at full-back. Another one of those back pockets, we don't know whether he's small or big, but when you see him on stage in a minute, you can make up your own mind. Okay, here he is.
Just on those plaques, I went to the Coburg team of the century and they gave the plaques out uncovered. So the first 2 or 3 players that got the plaques knew the rest of the team. So Jack's done well to come up with that idea, and please keep to it because it is important.
Hey, when you've been in the VFA for 50 years, you know every trick. Well done, Jack. Okay, back pocket.
Back pocket at number 3. The guy who captained the 1978 Grand Final. And a very good friend of mine, the wonderful Robert Anderson.
Thanks, mate. Well done. Robert Anderson, one of the most famous marks in VFA history when he launched himself above Preston's Bruce Gonsalves in the 1978 Grand Final. A shining light in defence in that epic premiership win. First made his mark as 18th man in the 1973 preliminary final. with 2 last quarter goals. Full forward in 73 the following week in the Premiership team. A dual best and fairest and captain for 3 years and a regular VFA representative. The trouble with all the people on stage tonight is we all remember launching, but no one can launch today.
I don't think I can get up there again.
Come in closer so they can all... No, there'd be Achilles and hamstrings going everywhere, wouldn't there?
Yeah, sure would be.
It was, 73.
Just looking at that, I think I'm the only one that hasn't changed.
I looked at it again and I thought, crikey, they've got another picture of Kerry Foley in there. No.
I thought that was my son.
Is it? You look back in your whole sporting career, 24 years ago since the 78 grand final. It still loom large in your mind?
Oh, it certainly does. I don't think a week goes by without sort of something comes up about the 78 grand final. You'll see someone at the races or somewhere and they'll say, oh, Rob Anderson, geez, you've got old, you know, and it was... We're sort of going back that long ago, but it always, there's something always comes up about the 78 grand final and...
well, I suppose you've got to talk about the coach.
Yes,
First year coach and at this club and thank you, we're talking about Mick now. Total silence who would come and club you. What was he like back there?
I remember the first time I met him, I sort of, I got a bit scared when I seen him actually because it was a Sunday drink, which was pretty normal down at Prahran for the Sunday drinkers. And Mick turned up and he had one of those T-shirts on with the muscles rippling out and he just said, I'm the coach and it's going to be done my way. And it really was, it was fantastic. He turned up there because we had a ball for those few years that he coached and I don't know what to say, I just wrapped.
I might send him down this end.
I'm just wrapped.
Rock, well done, and I hope this finds a place at home on the wall.
Certainly will.
Another 25 years, you can still keep talking about it.
I will.
All right,
thank
mate.
you.
Rob Anderson. Ladies and gentlemen, just as they go now, the back line in Prahran's Team of the Century, Vin Crow, Kerry Foley, Robert Anderson, and making the presentations, we thank Mick Irwin. We move on. There's the team. Crow, Foley, Anderson. It's taking shape. Shh. Thank you. The half-back line had the selectors working overtime. And working overtime is something that's come easy to our next presenter. For half a century, he was a committee man, president, everything. No one's worked harder to make this night a success. A good friend of mine for over 30 years, would you welcome Jack Morgans? Jack, shh. Thank you. Jack, I remember coming down to Toorak Park as a young reporter back in the early 70s. There was Bert Shallis, yourself, and the way you guys worked was just an eye-opener, and it's still going now 30 years on.
That's right.
So don't say that's right. Say, well, we're a hard-working, tight-knit organisation, which you've always been.
Yeah, that's right. We've enjoyed it. We've enjoyed it.
Hey, a lot of fun, some success, and a million memories. We're going to enjoy some of them tonight. Okay. We'll go straight in. Do you want to do the first one?
Yes.
Half-back flank, number 1.
Half-back flank.
Come over here.
Bill Fall.
Okay. After a 117-game career as part of the Foreign Legion at South Melbourne, Bill became an instant Two Blues star. As captain coach, he led the club into the finals in his only 3 years at the helm. From half-back flank, he won the club's best and fairest in 1940 and 1941. The VFA went into recess, but he returned as non-playing coach in 49 and was the architect of the 1951 Premiership win. And we have his son John here tonight to accept the award. Say a few words. Shh. Thank Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you to Jack. I've only known Jack about 3 weeks, but he does a hell of a lot of bloody work around this club. And it is my pleasure to accept this in behalf of my dear dad, who passed away some years ago. And I do thank the club on his behalf and my family's behalf, and wish all the other participants and the recipients the best of luck. And good luck to Prahran Football Club, and good luck to everybody here. Thank you very much.
Good on you, John. Well done, John. If you'd just like to move along there. Come on, Jack, you used to run those TV Week Logie Awards better than this. Come on, get in here. Okay, centre half back in Prahran's team of the century. I reckon there's a fair chance it's one of your old mates.
I think it might be. I think it's selected, I already know.
Oh, you're a shocker.
And the centre half back is Dick Culpin.
An immortal at Prahran as the only man to play in 3 premiership teams, twice best and fairest, runner-up. He became known as Mr. Reliable on the key defence post. He was at the peak of his powers in the 1973 final series. They had to win 3 finals to win the premiership, and he starred week after week after week. Ladies and gentlemen, have a look at him in action. Dick Culpin. Go on, Dick, do something.
Barr puts it to John Lilly. John Lilly decides to kick it now. He was looking for Cloak, but Culpin in front has taken the mark.
The big kick is what's paying off today. They shouldn't be short passing like this, Oakley.
They're overdoing it, both sides.
Dick Culpin looking like Keith Gregg in those white ankle bandages. He said to me he didn't think they had vision of him. Haven't you got this stuff at home?
No, mate. I'm surprised it's on tape because I said to Crowie before I didn't think they had the videos when we played. It was so far back.
You look at that up there just before they change the side, which always happens. To play in 3 premiership teams, I think most people go through their footy career and are quite content to play in 1. You played in 3 completely different eras, really, weren't they? There was a big changeover in personnel.
Yeah, there was actually, and even on our table tonight, there's David Kirby. I played with Curbs in the 66 premiership, played with Granger in 73 and Crowie in 1970, and just terrific.
You had a pretty good time down there?
But ask Jack.
Dick, I remember you. You weren't one of those dirty mongrels. You wouldn't have got a game at Preston or Port.
No.
You had to have a different type of CV.
No, look, Stephen, all I can say, look, this is a great honour. It's just terrific. I've had a lot of great fun at Prahran Footy Club. It's been good to me. Made a lot of terrific friends, lifelong friends over the years, and we still stick together. We play golf together. We go out with the girls together on a regular basis. And
same girls?
Same girls. Oh, most of the
time. Thank God for that.
Yeah. But,
okay.
No,
I just thought of those days back at the Court Jester. There was a bit of... they had the interchange bench moving a bit more freely in those days.
No comment.
They weren't called the 17th and 18th men back then. Dickie, ladies and gentlemen, centre half back in Prahran's team of the century, Dick Culpin. Okay, go on, Jack. Let's make up the half back line.
This is probably the hardest line to get the winners out of, but anyway, we're delighted to announce that the half-back flanker on the other side was Ian McGuinness.
His finest hour came in the 1978 Grand Final before more than 30,000, the VFA's biggest crowd for 25 years. He was best on the ground from centre half back in Prahran's premiership win in a match regarded as one of the epic VFA Grand Finals. A great high mark. You're watching him in action now. A keystone of a great defence.
And McGuinness has knocked over the line and out. A bit high, and he'll get the free kick. Here's gone high. Well, McGuinness, as he came past, got a very heavy knock from Gonzalez, and he in turn bumped into a Preston player, and it could have been a very...
Ian, the shorts. I've got to ask you about the shorts. Those shorts are shocking.
Yeah,
they look as though they've been in the dryer for about 3 hours.
They were my sons, actually. Yeah, no.
Ian, you'd had a crack at the VFL, had just a taste of it. Did did the years at Prahran make up? Didn't quite make it across the road at the MCG, but you certainly did at Toorak Park.
Oh, that's right, Stephen. I trained at Melbourne and Fitzroy. I'm sitting next to Rossi and just talking about Fitzroy and the Lions, the success they are now. But I was just saying, you know, what made us a sort of a good side. And I think that when you come from a league club, and I come from back to Prahran, I didn't realise how hard it was going to be. But I really had a sort of burning desire to play well with Prahran. And I was fortunate enough to be coached by Mick Irwin, who was, to my mind, the best coach I've ever had. And if it wasn't for Mick, I wouldn't be standing here for now, and I mean that. Thank you, Mick.
Ian, you look back to those days and there were some pretty tough mobs. You wouldn't really want to play on the half-back line in those days when you get playing against Port and Sandringham and Preston. They had some pretty good half-forwards, didn't they?
They did. They had some very good half-forwards. But I remember my first game, played for Prahran.
Excuse me a second, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
First game at Prahran was against Caulfield, and I was sort of fired up and that, but I come up against, my half-back line was Dennis Wilkie, who was a complete psych, and Steve O'Brien. And I was on the other half-back flank, and I thought, oh my God. And I just clicked. I really wanted to succeed there, and having those three blokes across, or two other blokes across the half-back line who were completely nuts, you know, sort of fitted in. It was good.
Ladies and gentlemen, making up the half-back line, Ian McGuinness.
Well done, Ian.
Here they are, Bill Fall, Dickie Culpin and Ian McGuinness, and I reckon table 32 will be very rowdy for the rest of the evening. And what's the table over there as well? The other table too. Good on you, Jack. I'll let you go back to the table. Have you got the bag with the money in it? No. I don't know where that bag's gone. He's been clutching a bag for the last 3 hours. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Our next presenter... Thank you. Our next presenter was a rugged back pocket plumber who's become one of the most influential men in Australian football. He's a 50-game veteran at Prahran, a premiership player, and after transferring to the VFL, became something of a legend in the game as a player and a coach. He was described before as Prahran's most famous son. Would you welcome Kevin Sheedy? Sheeds, just before I get you to handle the centre line with your usual aplomb, what was the club like? What was it like going down there as a kid, 16 years of age, and the youngest Prahran player, I think, weren't you? The youngest boy to play for Prahran, senior team?
I'm not quite sure. I think...
pretty much the books.
There might have been one there, boy called Simmons, just ahead of me.
But you're only a baby, weren't you?
Oh, look, I went along to Prahran because... it was the nearest footy club that you could attend. It was a marvellous club to sort of get to meet people there that, I mean, my dad had no interest in footy, he loved racehorses. And Mum said, just, you know, it's great to get you out of the house. There were 7 of us, kids. And I went along to Prahran. We had no really footy gear much. We sort of, in those sort of days, a lot different. And I remember a guy, Don Butling, bought me my first pair of footy boots, and it was just marvellous to sort of go back to the memories. Bertie Fritzlaff got me, he was the under-19s coach, he got me my first job virtually, and of course that was plumbing. And then I think that my first game, that was in the under-19s by the way, my first game at Prahran, the coaches then at the time were Dennis Jones and Ray Harvey, Bert Fritzlaff, and of course, and along came Graham Dunscombe, who was a very, very different sort of coach, but a very good thinking coach. Totally different to Dennis. Dennis was a very physical coach. But in those days, look, it was just a marvellous sort of period to grow up. I played my first game against Northcote. My second game was against Camberwell. Captain coach was a guy called Bert Gordian, who's now players represented at the AFL. And smashed me in the face. I was about 16 years of age. I'd stitched up that night and I thought, well, I haven't been causing that much trouble around the streets. He was a detective sergeant at the Malvern Cop Shop. Anyway, about 35 years later, I went up the AFL tribunal for touching my throat. And the person that represented me was Bert Gordian. And he got me again because I got fined for $7,500. So I'll always remember Bert Gordian in my footy career, ladies and gentlemen. But a good fun time, lovely club, Prahran, to see them go on to really achieve the successes with Kevin Rose. Marvellous success to go that next step after we got out of second division. And with Mick Irwin, it's just tremendous to see the club have the wonderful years, decades that they had, and produce many great players, you know. And Jono, I mean, the Dominator, great to see him sort of come down out of the mountains, and now he's living in the sunshine. It's amazing what football's done for him.
Now, Kev, we had someone up before who's a great old mate of yours, and I know you've got a presentation. Do you want to get him up here and we'll make that presentation now before we mention the centre line? Why
not? I think that, firstly, where are we?
Is it coming out? Coming. Why don't we get him up here first?
This guy, I'll just talk about this person before he comes up, because he's the most genuine person you could ever meet. Sometimes, maybe most times, a lot of people in sport and in the environment of perhaps our workplace, we tend to take people for granted. I think that this is one of those sort of people that I tend to think that we do. He's been there ever since I walked into Prahran. He was there with a smiling face, and of course I think he's probably what the AFL sometimes forget about what we are about in Australia and Australian football, and that is that these people are really the soul of footy. They're the sorts of people that you just think, gee, I'm glad I met that person. And I remember the ladies' committee at Prahran, and I'm glad I met the whole lot of them. They kept me alive. It was fantastic. But in this case, it's not a lady, it's a gentleman, and that gentleman naturally is Jack Morgans. Come on, Jack.
It's got to be signed with a few more signatures to come, and we don't want him to show them. You might have to explain.
Come over here, son. Right over here. Now, you're not allowed to look at this because we've got to get it resigned. So, to you, Jack, on behalf of all the people in this room, I'm just a lucky person that's sort of up here, but I'd say every person in this room that's ever met you would not say one bad word about you. They would love you. They think you're a caring person, and that's you're just one of the icons, probably the greatest icon I've met in this club. Well done.
Thank you.
Jack, we can't show everyone the jumper because it's got the names of the players on it. Yes. And you are the El Supremo when it comes to secrecy.
That's right.
What do we say in your presentation?
That's
right. Okay. He has not got the girlfriends on it. Give him a break. Jack, stay up. Can you just mind your painting over there? You pictured Jack, your jumper for a second. I'll get Shoes back. And we'll do the centre line, and then we'll get Jack up here. Okay, we've got two wingmen and a centre man. 1966, there was only a centre man, wasn't there?
Well, yes, it was. But
and you were
okay.
it?
Well, that happened.
Okay,
that
on the wing.
They were shorter players. Wingman. There was a person that stayed around the club when I was there as a trainer, beautiful person, and his name was Frank Smith.
The game's record holder at Prahran, 248 matches, a stylish left foot kick. His career spanned 17 seasons. It was interrupted by a couple of seasons at Melbourne in 31 and 32. He won the Recorder Cup for the best and fairest in the VFA. He was a member of the 1936 Grand Final team and was a key to the club's first premiership win the following year in 1937.
Oh, here we go.
And representing Frank, his niece, Norma Adamson.
First ever recorder cup winner.
Our first, exactly.
Yeah. Gee, and there's another Frank Smith. I got that one mixed up. Congratulations. Well done.
His boys, Kevin,
Yeah.
at
Prantec, that's right.
Coach down there.
Yeah. No, well, Prantec was a lovely school for me. Congratulations.
Come in here.
Thank you.
Okay. Norman, this is a lovely thrill, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Jump in here. And now Frank had a strong association with Kevin, so it seems fitting tonight that he's made the presentation.
That's right.
Do you want to tell us?
He would be very proud because he was the coach at Prahran Tech when Kevin was there, and he always referred to Kevin as one of his boys. He was very proud of him.
Thank you. Well, we'd like you to take this plaque home. Actually, you can't take it yet. We'll bring it over to you later because it's got Jack Morgan's stuck paper over it. But if you'd like, Norma, if you'd like to just wander down there, you can have that plaque and we'll bring you over a real one afterwards.
Thank you.
Can you stand over there next to Jack? Okay, we've got a wingman. We're going to the centre now, and this won't be any surprise to those who know this football club. You're
No, it's one of the greatest players ever all time and one of the most beautiful people you could actually meet too, because this guy I spent some time with out at Essendon, and he drops in quite often and I see him up the country. Paddy Walsh.
Triple Brownlow medalist Bobby Skilton once said he was the best VFA footballer he ever saw. A star centre man for Prahran, a regular VFA representative. Number 10, like the bloke beside me, in the Two Blues 1951 Premiership year, he was runner-up in the club best and fairest, and in the Liston, Paddy Walsh. Paddy. The thing I like the best, Paddy, is that after 6 years, you came back in 1960 and played one game to qualify for life membership. Is that right?
Yes.
You're in pretty good nick, were you?
Yes, yes. But I also came back 61, 62 as non-playing coach.
Well, I was more worried about this game in 1960. Tell us about that game. You kicked 3 goals.
Yeah.
You came off the bench, did you?
Yes, at three-quarter time, went to centre half forward, kicked 3 goals and got reported.
Most people remember their first game. This was actually your last game?
Yeah, last game with Prahran. Yes.
They rub you out?
No, because I was honest and pleaded guilty.
What exactly was the charge? It wasn't wrestling or pushing, was it?
Punching.
Punching.
And
who actually did you snot?
A chap named Ross Ousley. He was centre half forward, centre half back, and I reckon he went to kick me, so I just went whack. And when I pleaded guilty, the chairman of the tribunal said, "How refreshing for someone to plead guilty for a change."
They didn't even rub you out?
No.
Kevin just went like that. $7,000 or something. Was it 7? Cost him one day of holidays in Las Vegas. Paddy, great memories.
Yes.
You go back a long way. Is there one that stands out when you go back? When you think Prahran, you think of your playing career at the moment?
Well, look, I can't go. Look, I'll go back to 1951, and a lot of my mates are over there tonight. They're all over here. Butts, Ronnie, even Jackie Fergus. Little old Jackie, grand man, Jeff Jones, Bob Campbell. Look, there were so many of them, Billy Roach. We had a wonderful side. We were great mates on the field, great mates off the field. And that was what made us successful in 1951. And if I can just add one other thing here, it's through the Prahran Football Club that I met my wife, and we've been together for 50 years.
And the good thing is that for the next 50 years she'll be able to dust this plaque.
Well, my wife told me the other day that when this business crashes into the earth, you know, in 16 years' time or something, we'll be celebrating our 65th wedding anniversary, if I'm alive.
Ladies and gentlemen, the centre man in Prahran's team of the century, Paddy Walsh. Okay, we've got a wingman to go, and then we'll take a break and we'll have a main course. They're chafing at the bit in the kitchen. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Look, this guy is a terrific player, a lot of courage. And I remember when I went over to Richmond, this player was coming to Prahran, and I thought, yeah, I always went back to Prahran to watch this fella play. He really led with his efforts, his courage, his strength, and not a big fella, but come from Melbourne. His name's Ken Emsel.
And there he is there. He hasn't changed one little bit. After 102 games with Melbourne, Kenny Emsel was recruited to Prahran in 1970. He won the best and fairest in his first season. And there he is in action. Kenny, turn around quickly.
Comes through in the direction
Looks like Brian Keneally handballing over.
There, a long hand pass to Emsel. Emsel taps it away neatly. Look at this experience. Look at that. And then up towards Sinclair.
Keneally to Emsel to Townsend.
The ball down to bounce back correctly. Short pass to Smith. Then Smith takes the mark. Within scoring range. About 4 metres in from the boundary line and about 20 metres out from goal.
Kenny played in the premiership in the AFL, or in the VFL in those days, and then in the VFA. Nice, isn't it? Nice double.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I had a wonderful time at Prahran in the 5 or 6 years that I was there.
Excuse me a sec, down on table 33. Thank you very much. Sorry, Ken.
Yeah, I think it was at a time when I was just married. I had my family, and it was a bit like they say about Hawthorn, that it was the family club. It was certainly a great place to be for the years that I was there, and I'm sure it's still the same.
Ken, the Melbourne Footy Club provided some fantastic players in the late 60s, early 70s. They seemed to bow out and come down to Toorak Park. You got some good ones, didn't you?
Yeah, we had. I think Murray came from Melbourne. Brian Keneally, John Townsend, Rob Dowsing.
Dicko, he came down for a try, didn't he?
Brian Dixon played a game, or 2 or 3 games at Prahran, and I remember one day we played out at Williamstown, and that big wind was blowing at Williamstown, and Dicko was not a great kick. He had a lot of them, but they weren't great, and he kicked one of those big left foot mongrel punts, and it went back over his head.
Congratulations, you're in elite company tonight, along with Paddy and Frank. Congratulations on being named in Prahran's Team of the Century. Kenny Emsel. Just before we let Sheeds sneak off to get over the fact he missed out on being named in the centre, just hold on one sec, guys. Jack, you've been around this club when you first came down here in 1886. I guess you wouldn't have realised that you would have bred a boy like this, turned him into one of the great names in Australian sport. And I know you've got something for Kev. It's coming? It's coming? Jack, do you want to say something about Kevin first?
Oh,
we've got a present for you, Kev. Got a present for you.
Not really, because everybody talks about Kevin Sheedy. One thing he always does is he remembers Prahran, and whenever possible he gives us a mention where he comes from, and that to people in the Prahran Football Club is very good even today. There's some way the Prahran Football Club, through Kevin, we get exposed, and also the fact is he's so great for community. He came to school down in St Joseph's, is correct, just a couple of years ago with the kids, and gave them a talk, and everyone in Prahran just says what a wonderful effort he does for everybody in the community, not only the Prahran Football Club. And it is now my pleasure to give Kevin this trophy here and announce him as the Ambassador of the Century.
Thanks. So look, I think that often you get a thrill out of coming to a club that helped form you as a person, and as I said before, and probably will always think in my life that there are many great people I could nearly name the team that I played with, and I'm talking about the under-19 team with Kenny Bosch and Albie Giesler, Frank Giesler, all those sort of guys. And of course, back up into the seniors when it was only 2 years ago I went up and saw Brian Wishart up in Cairns, spent some time with him, hadn't seen him for many, many years. And of course, not even the situation when you actually start to go over to Richmond, because I got disqualified for 5 years. And I thought I'd be coming back I thought I'd be back with Kevin Rose before you, Rosie. I thought I might have been back with you very quick, mate. But just the opportunity, I think.
Well, in 1937 was the premiership. It was played here, but I wasn't allowed to attend because there was infantile paralysis epidemic, a very serious thing. And I can recall waiting down in Aberdeen Road where we lived for the result of the match, and it more or less came down by bush telegraph. There was nothing on the radio, etc. And when we found out we'd won the match, the whole street sort of, people come out of their houses. It was a community thing in those days that if you lived in Prahran, you followed Prahran. And the whole community was involved. I personally have followed Prahran all, for those years, which incredibly 65 years ago. But, and then I was served on committee and was president here for a while. I've had an involvement where we were sort of based as kids here. We used to use this as our base, and everybody sort of had a kick and came to training, etc. I remember my father, he was drunk for 3 days after the event. He was had a good excuse, I suppose. He couldn't get a better one than that. But Mum copped it for a couple of days. But when he couldn't work on Monday, the joint blew up a bit. But his memory, my memory of his recollection was that Hawkins kicked 6 goals, and his hero was Bill Coop, the fullback, who took a timely mark in the goal square just before the bell rang. And it was a great day for Prahran Football Club. Naturally their first premiership, but it was to lead on into quite a few more. And it was really a great day for everybody.
We had a wonderful side. If I may say, we played Port Melbourne in the second semi-final. We won it by 9 goals. It was a marvellous win. But the grand final was just a different piece of cake, I suppose, because they were determined to beat us. And it was a really hard-fought game, as most association games were in those days. There was no love lost anywhere, but after any game, you'd go in and have a drink together. But on the field, it was dog eat dog. And I suppose the wonderful thing about it was we were just a good team, a team of good mates, and we just went out for each other. And to actually win the grand final by 7 points was just a bonus. It was wonderful. You never experienced anything like it in your life, I don't think. Just going back to that, when Bill Fall addressed us before the start of the grand final, I asked him if I could speak to the players. Just to I think I was so worked up. So anyway, I got up on the table. What I said, I wouldn't have a clue. But I was so all fired up myself that when I got down, our secretary friend Strap said to me, "Gee, that was a good speech." He said, "You made my blood tingle. I felt like running out with you." What I said, I wouldn't have a clue. But it was just a wonderful thing, and we had a wonderful team, and we were good mates. And that makes a heck of a difference.
Yes, well, I think I came back to coach Prahran in 1958. At the end of 58, the Prahran Council, in its wisdom or otherwise, did not renew the lease of the grounds of the Prahran Football Club. So the Prahran Football Club was expelled from the VFA. No money, spirits very low, and a number of great people who had a great influence on me in later life. I remember Frank Strap and his wife. Frank was secretary for many years. Jack Morgans was on the committee, and Jack used to do anything that wanted doing was done. There was George Bremner, who looked after the seconds, I think, and Les Bartlett, who was played in the seconds and that sort of thing. Men like, and I think it was Armstrong, the butcher from the Prahran market, came in, and it was decided that we would put a team into the Metropolitan League. Rather than disband, there would have been no more Prahran Football Club. The spirit was tremendous. I mean, I consider myself lucky to ever been involved with Prahran. I think when I first came here when I was 23 or 24 and was captain, coach and played for a year. And when I came back and renewed my association with them, the people I met, the calibre of the men, had a lasting influence and still do have on my life. I can remember, mentioned the Straps and mentioned Barry Pearson was here, and Barry Pearson's mother and father, they'd be here every week, and George Bremner, and they just worked their guts out for nothing. They just loved Prahran. They contributed to the city of Prahran, South Yarra, Toorak, Armidale. All these people were locals, put aside in the Metropolitan League, and the spirit was tremendous. I can remember Graham Coningsby, who I'd never met before, but I knew his father through work. He rang me up and he said, "Jack, you're coaching Prahran, and I believe that they're just about gone, that you've put aside in the Metropolitan League." I said, "That's right, Graham." He said, "Well, I'm an old Prahran boy. I played Prahran, but I've been playing down at Sandringham because Teddy Fletcher was a mate of his and was coaching." He said, "I'll come back and play if you'll have me." I said, "Graham, we can't pay you any money." He said, "I love Prahran that much, I'll come back." He came back. We had Kevin Healy, and you know, there were a great number of people. I don't want to name many of them. Men like Frank Schillerbeer, Donny Kinniburgh, Peter Kinniburgh, Colin Boyd. Most of all, and I couldn't separate them as being men of character, but they simply loved Prahran, and they played for nothing, gave their all. So we survived. We won the premiership in the Metropolitan League, and the next year the council saw the wisdom and decided Prahran Football Club really was Prahran, and they gave us back the ground. And from there we went on, and then there were many years of success. But I've never forgotten the calibre of the people that I met. Most humble, unassuming, hard-working people that I've ever come across. Great influence on me, on my career, my future, because they are people of integrity, people of generosity, and if they ever elect a plaque, they should elect a plaque at the City of Prahran Town Hall to the Prahran Football Club and all the people that have been associated with it.
It opened my eyes to this wonderful thing called motivation. We had, and I've learnt since that it was always the case before any big event that you'd have a pie night, the old pie night. We had it at our place at Burwood. And it opened my eyes tremendously to just how you can bond, how blokes can bond with each other. And it's not the sort of thing I think that they'd be recommending today. Kevin Sheedy and company wouldn't be into this, but we were all there, and it lasted until the wee small hours. It was a Thursday night after training. A typical pie night where you had the films running from Channel 7. Someone organised that, probably Jack Morgans. And as a result of all of that, we all left there feeling just so good about ourselves and our likely outcome that when we did play on the weekend, we beat Geelong West and beat them fairly convincingly. I'd say just about every player played it to his best ability, if not above themselves. I think I played above myself, but certainly everybody seemed to win. We didn't have too many losers at all that day, and I put it down to that night. From memory, and it's a while ago now, 1966, but we kicked about 22 goals, I think, from memory. Barry Pearson, full forward. We had a number of really top players in those days: Minton Connell, Hank Verwitt, Graham McMahon. Brian Wishart was the vice captain in those days. Wishy was on the half-back flank. Had a young bloke played with us called Kevin Sheedy. And even though he wasn't that tall, I think he even took a stint at centre half forward, which was fantastic. He had a lot of talent, that guy, of course, and well, we know where he is today, of course. He's still exhibiting that talent in many other directions, as well as being a past player. It's probably dimmed a little bit. I do know that we won very well. If you talk to blokes like Dave Kirby, of course, he'll tell you that he won the game by keeping the 100-goaler, Benny Nusterling, I think his name was, who was full forward. He kept him goalless. But I don't think there'd be too many people in the Prahran club that wouldn't know that. David seems to be able to trot that story out at any time. Yeah, everybody seemed to win that day, and the net result was that if it had gone for another 10 minutes, I think we would have won by another 10 goals. It was just one of those days when it all came together, and we were all very pleased.
I was in a fortunate position, I guess, that I had 3 clubs that I could have chosen from, and Waverley was one, Coburg was another, and Prahran. But I got to say, I was very impressed with the administration, with the people like Charles Lux and Jack Morgan and Leslie Bartlett, and decided on Prahran. And I think that, fortunately for me, I made a wise decision. So I started at Prahran in 68, and we went to the grand final in 68. But I was pleased then in 70. We had a quiet year in 69. But in 70 we came back very strong with some new players, and I was pleased that the fellows like Dick Colpin, I think Johnny Grange, Errol Hutchison, who had played in that 68 grand final that we lost, they were there for us in 1970, and all played, particularly well, and particularly Dick Colpin, of course, who had played in the second division premiership with Prahran. And then played in the 3 grand finals that I was involved in. He was a terrific finals player. So it was good for those guys that we won in 70, as well as being good for the club. But I mean, I was fortunate that, as I said earlier, the administration supported me. I knew very early, actually, when I started recruiting, and I said to Charles, look, this money seems to be just concerning me a little. And he said, look, you worry about getting the players and winning the premierships. Our job's to find the money. And although I tried to remain responsible in that area, it gave me the confidence that Charles's view was that we can get a good team and we can win a premiership or 2, well, the funds will flow. And that's what happened. And Jack Morgans then took over from Charles, and he was president in that 70 premiership year and the 73. Well, we went on to win again in 73. 70 was a we had a very good team in 70. We finished on top of the ladder and beat Williamstown narrowly, only a goal in the second semi-final. They came home pretty strong, and they were coached by Max Papley, and they'd come up from second division. And then they won the preliminary final very easily, Williamstown. They went in favourites actually. But we jumped them very early, and we actually had the game probably won at half-time. So it was a good win. It's 70 again, and prior to 70, of course, we didn't do a lot. I think we might have just missed the finals in 71. 72 was a struggle. We rebuilt again in 73. And we had a pretty powerful team in 73, but unfortunately we had a bad run of injuries in the first half of the year in 73. And we had to win a lot of games. I think we won 8 in a row to get into the finals. We got into 4th position, and to my knowledge at the time we were the only team to win the premiership from 4th position. But we won it convincingly. I think we won by something like a total of 23 or 24 goals overall for the 3 finals. We actually blitzed them in the finals. But we had a good balanced team with 2 good ruckmen, and our forward structure was really good. So I guess I was fortunate. I was here at Prahran in a time when the administration was fantastic, and we all worked well together, and we had a very disciplined football team. So life can be lucky for you sometimes.
In 1977, Prahran was probably 0.05% away from being relegated, but we gathered the numbers, and throughout the 78 season we recruited reasonably well. From a team point of view, we recruited very well. We got a lot of good players in, but more to the point, we got a balanced team. And on the big day in 78, in front of a record crowd of about 30,000 people, which is incredible when you think back to the VFA days, we played Preston, who we'd only beaten once during the year, and we had to beat Port Melbourne to get into the grand final, who hadn't beaten during the year. So it was an absolute vital day, beautiful sunshine, and the guys really performed well. We got away to a good start, and then slipped a bit in the second quarter. We were in touch at half-time, and I'd spoken to the boys and mentioned to them before the game that I felt we could run over them in the second half, and they were a very pacey, brilliant side, but I didn't feel they were tough enough to go the whole distance with us, and we needed to be within 2 or 3 goals of them at half-time. We were within 10 points. Bit of a turning point in the third quarter when Harold Martin head-butted Chappie, and I think we were probably 10 points down at that stage. Within 10 minutes we were 5 or 6 goals up. Preston completely, including Harold, lost their composure. There were a few fights. I think we did pretty well in all of them, and at the end of the day we won by 4 goals, which was just a magnificent effort and a wonderful reward for the effort that the guys have put in throughout the year, and more to the point, a wonderful reward for the committee and the supporters that have put so much faith in myself and the players.
Yeah, I first came to Prahran for the start of the 1986 season, and there's a couple of people involved getting me there. I'd been playing at Melbourne for a long period of time, and Les Bartlett and Graham Coningsby were fairly significant in the role that they played in getting me to the footy club, and it was a really good opportunity to get the chance to be a first-time coach at a club that even my father had been involved at many years ago, so that was quite attractive. And the club had gone from First Division back to Second Division in that year too that I arrived, so it was going to be fairly tough for the club, and I think everyone was pretty much focused on getting back into First Division as soon as they possibly could. So we sort of had a fairly successful year in 86, made the preliminary final, but we got beaten by a team called Sunshine, which proved to be our nemesis over a couple of years. And look, even in 87 we started quite slowly, and I think from memory we played Sunshine in the first game and led, and they got over the top of us, and we lost 3 of our first 4 games, and there was a huge amount of expectation on the team and everyone that we were going to be really quite successful and actually quite dominate the competition. And I think after the first 4 rounds, when we'd only won 1 and lost 3, that there's a fair bit of pressure and everything building on a lot of people around the place. And Alf Blamey, the president at the time, who'd been a terrific supporter, it was fantastic at the time. It was fantastic for rebuilding the club, and a driving force to getting them back into Division 1, as well as everyone else around the place. Look, we were able to string a number of games together. I think we won 7 on the trot, and then lost another 1, and then we went into the final series having won 5 in a row, and came up against Sunshine in the first semi-final, which, as I mentioned before, had been a bit of a nemesis for us, and we found it really hard to beat them. When they gave us some significant losses, they belted the living daylights out of us at Sunshine one day, and it was pretty ugly. And it was, so we were really poised to get over that. And once we'd done that, we had to then shift our focus towards, I think we played Oakley in the preliminary final, and we had a good win, and we were fairly comfortable about how we went. But the disappointing thing from the Sunshine game in the first semi was that Charlie Walder, our ruckman, got reported and suspended, so he missed the preliminary final. And we had young Scott Giles, who'd been a terrific player for us all year, who was ill and couldn't play, and he was one of our key match-up players through the midfield. And so we had 2 players out of the team in the preliminary final, which was fairly significant to us. And look, we got through, which was fantastic. And I guess in the lead up to the grand final, one of the hardest things that I had to do as a coach is leave out 2 guys that had played fairly well in the preliminary final, and to let Charlie Wilder back in and Scott Giles. And I remember Charlie Wilder getting to our ruckman on the preliminary final day, young Tony Mazarak, and just winding him up like a top to make sure that he did everything he possibly could to get the team over the line so as Charlie could play in the grand final the next week. And we had a fairly significant win in the preliminary final, and then the grand final. And look, we used a bit of a tactic at the start of the game that enabled us to get away to a really good start. We used 2 ruckmen in at the centre bounce, Charlie Wilder and Tony Mazarak, and Charlie was able to dominate the game and played a terrific game and really significant performance in the way that the team performed. He helped us start really well. We had a very good first quarter and got out to probably a 4 or 5 goal lead and held the lead for most of the game. And Waverley came back at us throughout a period of the game, but we held on. And one of the really significant things too was young Squizzy Taylor, Paul Taylor, who had played in the grand final I think 10 years earlier, and kicked the goal that we were getting challenged, and they came back at us, and little Squizzy had been on the bench, came on and got those little legs pumping in the forward pocket and ran onto a loose ball and kicked the goal and put us in front, and not in front, we never got headed, and that was the rest is history, I suppose. So it was really significant that Squizzy in his last game was able to kick a goal that sealed the match for us.
Charlie, just one question before you put your glasses on, or while you're putting them on. Shh. Bit of respect for Charlie.
Yeah.
Shh. Played in the half-forward line in that 1886 match. There was a bugger playing in those work boots back then, wasn't it, Charlie?
So played in bare feet.
Bare feet back then. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. What about the selection so far? Have you been happy with it?
Well, I ought to be. I did it.
That's what I thought. Okay. Okay. There you go. Half-forward flank number 1. Who is on the half-forward flank?
Before I go too far, I'd just like to put my 3 penneth in. I've been at the Prahran Footy Club for over 50 years, and tonight gives me a tremendous thrill to have seen the people I've seen over those 50-odd years. I've made some wonderful friends, and I will always remember them. Thank you.
Good on you, Charlie. Come on. He was saying to me he hasn't had this much fun since he was opening all those Christmas cards last year. Keep sending them. Half-forward flank number 1, Charlie. Who is it?
Well, he's a young fella. He's called the Dominator.
Okay, Wayne Johnson played his first senior game as a 17-year-old in 1975. He finished 3rd in the club best and fairest. In 78, he kicked 73 goals from the half-forward flank. With football like this, I direct your attention to the big screen. The Dominator.
Johnson into an open goal, and Prahran goes for the goal. A great quarter of football by Prahran.
Ladies and gentlemen, on one half-forward flank, was it ever in doubt? The Dominator, Wayne Johnson. Mate, you moved beautifully. 78 was your year.
It was a good year for the club. Mick took over the club in 78 and recruited quite a new breed of player, and put a new strategy in place for the way the club was going to play football for the next few years, and I was lucky enough to be a part of that.
It's a pretty handy couple of years for you. 78, Ruck Park, Premiership. 79, 81, just kept going, kept getting better and better.
Yeah, 82, 87, yeah, they got better, yeah. But the one at Prahran in 78 was very special. We were probably a middle-of-the-road side during the course of the year. I think we got beaten by Brunswick at Ruck Park, which sort of really put our year on a tailspin. But from that moment on, we sort of went forward and made the finals in 3rd or 4th place, and then obviously went on to win the first semi, the preliminary, against Port, which was an epic struggle in itself. And then go on to beat Preston, which is another epic struggle in front of a 30,000 plus crowd at the Junction Oval. It was a great day.
Jono, you could have ended up at Oakley. They didn't like the look of you. So you sort of wandered on down to Toorak Park. What was the problem at Oakley? Can you remember going there? Were you disappointed?
A little bit disappointed. Don Kiddo was a coach up at Wanda North, where I came from, who played at Oakley and was runner-up in a couple of listings, and suggested that I go down there. Ian Robinson, who triple premiership player at Carlton, suggested that they had two fine rovers in Charlie Pagnocolo and Lou Tesoriero that were probably above my calibre as a player, and I'd be better off probably going back to the bush for a year as a 17-year-old and come back the year after. Don Kiddo actually then knew Dick Colpin and enabled me to get over to Prahran and train. Played my first reserve grade game at Caulfield, actually, here, in the year of 75, and 2 weeks later I played my first game against Oakley.
Just to clear up any misconceptions in the room, I know there are only 650 people in here tonight. Dirty Dick Colpin, if there was any suggestion that he used to play up at the Courchester Hotel, I just want to make that clear down there on table 32, and I know his wife's with him tonight, and I just want to clear up any misconceptions in that area, because as you know, Dick was one dog, one bone all the way through. And I do apologise, Dick, if I've got you into any deep poo-poo. Sorry, mate. OK, now you've mentioned Dick. You know what it's like, Wayne. You say the wrong thing and you... I'm sorry about that. He was a great character down at the club, wasn't he?
Oh, absolutely, mate. He had a lot of great characters. No more than on my table 40 tonight, yeah.
Well, you've got Steve Kent down there. He's still waiting. He's hanging out for his name to be read out. Well, and Steve, I've got some big news for you. Keep hanging, mate.
He's best man at my wedding.
He was best man at your wedding. Well, geez, there's a few of those around the room. Ladies and gentlemen, there was never a doubt about this man. On the half-forward line in Prahran's team of the century, would you put your hands together for the Dominator, Wayne Johnson? Thanks, mate. Oh, Charlie, now, you guys, the boys spent months working on this team. How often do you have a meeting, Charlie?
3 a week.
3 a week, 3 meetings a week. It just about killed them. Okay.
We like Ray Ryan's sisters' morning teas.
Ray Ryan's sister's morning tea. Haven't times changed? In the old days, they would have liked Ray Ryan's sister. Okay, who's been named at centre half forward?
I better have a look in it again, haven't I?
You better open the envelope. You haven't lost the blasted envelope, have you? Here we go. Centre half forward too. Yeah, I'll take the old one. I always watch those people doing the Logies and Delvine Delaney or one of those people come on with a little gold dress. I got Charlie. Come on, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Centre half forward in Prahran's team of the century is...
And it's my pleasure, and a very good mate of mine, Billy Morrow.
Bill Morrow started his career as a 17-year-old in 1947. By 1951, he was an established star. That's obviously his family. By 1951, he was an established star at centre half forward. He dominated Prahran's second semi win over Port with his high marking. He was a key player a fortnight later in the 1951 Premiership win. He was a VFA representative that year, and he was one of 6 players to play in every match in that Premiership year. The centre half forward in Prahran's team of the century is Bill Morrow. Bill, come in, mate. Grab the plaque, or come in first with me.
Okay.
Come in, Bill.
Thank you.
Bill, I've got to say, you've got the rowdiest table here. Who are all these young Sheilas down here?
Yeah, they're all my Sheilas, yeah.
Are they? I'm not saying anything about table 32 ever again, but this table down here, table 24, are they your children or grandchildren?
Yes, children, yeah, and my wife and my 2 daughters and their boyfriends, and my sister-in-law and her husband.
Jump in here a bit, mate. Come over here with me. That's better. So you've got the whole family here?
Yes. Now, wasn't my idea.
No.
It was my wife's youngest sister, Pauline. She organised all this, which
I've got to say, it's 50 years after that grand final, more than 50 years. Isn't it a great thrill to be recognised by all these youngsters tonight?
Yes, it is.
Shh, please, a little respect.
I wonder whether I ever played football after watching the football they play on television these days. It's just incredible the way they play, isn't it?
He's fixed them up, Sheeds, hasn't he? He's redesigned the game for you.
I'm glad I was picked on centre half forward instead of half forward flank, because I don't think Kevin Sheedy is very impressed with half forward flankers.
You've got to be able to run all day.
Well, yeah, but he doesn't think much of them.
I've got it, without being rude, because as we get on a bit, we tend to lose a centimetre or two. You're not an enormously tall guy for a key position. What sort of height did you play at?
About 6 foot.
Pardon? With his boots on, of course. I forgot about the boots. Bill, congratulations on being named at centre half forward. You're alongside the Dominator, and he will look after you when the hard stuff comes along. He's there on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Morrow, centre half forward in Prahran's Team of the Century.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Bill. Wayne, you have got the party line here. This is the party line. Watch out, Bill. Don't go over the edge for cross sake. Okay, on the other half forward flank. Charlie, come in here, mate. Come in close. The other half forward flanker, we've got Bill Morrow and we've got the Dominator, Wayne Johnson.
This player is one of our later players. He played a lot of games with Prahran. Glenn Dixon.
Oh, good choice. He began his career at Prahran as a dashing half-back flanker and became one of the club's most prolific goal kickers. A raking left foot, he played his first game in 1975. He missed the 78 premiership. He went back to Richmond. He came back to Prahran in 79, a dual best and fairest, 3 times VFA rep, and club captain in 1983.
The first quarter, and there's a mark, almost a mark. The umpire is going to play it, and there's fisticuffs on down here. I thought this had happened. Yes, a lot of spite creeping into the game, and look at them going in there. Umpires trying to drag the players off. They're having none of that. They're in for their chop. Use is there, likewise Dixon.
I'm pleased I fed the dog this morning. They were like a dog in a bone.
They were, Phil. Well, they can have it. Because it's bitterly trial conditions here, and if you're going to start that sort of action, you want to be well and truly warmed up. So it looks like the umpire is going to give the kick to Prahran. Oh,
Peter Hogan looked a little heated.
There on the bench, having plenty to say. Peter Hogan has a bit on his mind at the moment as Dixon comes in for his kick, but umpire Roy Groom says go back. Obviously wasn't ready. There's the kick now. Right in towards the mud patch out there. Going up is Young. He can't take it. Pledger comes out, but he misses the ball. Very greasy conditions, and the umpire has paid the...
Ladies and gentlemen, on the other half forward flank, put your hands together for Glenn Dixon. Glenn, I've got to get you in close to the microphone. The match against Sandringham, probably late 70s at Toorak Park. I noticed a couple of great characters in there. Terry Wilkins and the very affable and friendly Alfie the Squirrel Grip Buse.
As you can see, that Alf is well renowned for his ability to take a squirrel grip, and I'm sure Ian McGuinness would remember that very well from his time with him, and I'm sure Alf has got a few belts in the mouth as a result of his actions.
Shh! If we can just have a bit of quiet, please, down that end, because a lot of people are interested. I'm sorry you're not down there. Glenn, when he grabbed you on the orchestras, was it a gentle, or was it a firm, friendly grip, or was it a nasty, intimidating grip?
Certainly, Alf on the football field was a certain individual that was prepared to upset you with any way that he could go about doing it, and the orchestration of the way that he attacked you was quite firm.
You went back to Richmond. You had a couple of years there in the late 70s. Barry Richardson would have been the coach then?
Sure, yeah. I was fortunate. I spent a lot of time with Richmond early in the 70s, and probably spent 70 or 80 games in the twos. went back to Prahran as the least, and then went back to Richmond. Played with some magnificent footballers at Richmond. But I must say, going back to Prahran, the whole essence of the club dealt with unbelievable loyalty. It promoted so much goodwill in the nature of the club. It was a pleasure to be there, and it complemented my benefit of being there, that I ran a career and I propagated the business, and the place was a wonderful place for me. I had some wonderful characters I had there. In the time I spent there, I've had a wonderful life with Prahran. I have great memories about the place.
Well, this just adds to it tonight. Later on, you'll be able to take that piece of paper off and see who else is in the team of the century, but I'm sure it'll take pride of place in your home. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, making up the half-forward line. It is a half-forward line of Wayne Johnson, Bill Morrow, and now Glenn Dixon. And Charlie, we thank you very much. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just waiting for Bill wants to stay up here rather than go back to his table. He said it's too rowdy. If I can have your attention, we are really moving on now. There is the team. We are moving on to the full forward line. Well done, Bill. Shh. Your attention, please. In the early 50s, our next presenter won 4 Best and Fairest awards. He played some 200 games. He played in 2 premierships and coached for half a lifetime. To name our forward line in Prahran's team of the century, would you put your hands together for this man, Mr. Ray Harvey. Ray, I've got to give you the envelopes. Come in, Ray. Ray, I guess when you were playing footy in the late 40s, early 50s, there was the Wednesday League and the Sunday League and the VFA. You had to be a fairly tough man to survive in football in those days.
Betty, you sure did. I can tell you, although I never played in the Wednesday League, or I finished up playing in the Sunday hotel competition, and I can tell you that was very tough. It was a good competition until the money came in and the ring-ins. The ring-ins were, you know, the league footballers, and everyone would back that side, and of course they'd win. But I don't think football's changed a great deal over the years in toughness.
You must, Prahran, after you finished playing, it just became part of your life? You just kept going?
Well, I played with Prahran thirds in 1945. I played for 2 years, and then they came into the VFA as Prahran thirds with the VFA. Unfortunately, they were throwing the ball then, and that's one thing I wouldn't play football if they threw the ball. So I went over to Melbourne for a couple of years, came back in 50, and I've been with Prahran ever since.
Okay, well, you've got the fantastic job of naming our forward line, and that will be F1 because we have done this. Jack Morgans has done this by code. F1 is the first of our forward line players. Okay, here it comes. Named in the forward pocket in Prahran's team of the century is...
Look, this gives me great pleasure to name this player because I've known him for quite a long time. I know what he's done, and to be in the first left-hand forward pocket is Barry Pearson.
A Ruck Rover in the 1959 flag. He kicked 6 goals from full forward in the 1966 Premiership. In 13 years, he kicked 256 goals, was a dual Premiership player, and when his playing days were over, he coached Prahran seconds for 6 years. Barry Pearson. Barry, come in here. These microphones, we're going up and down a bit with these microphones, but I gather from your reaction that this is something of a thrill.
Well, it's a tremendous surprise. I was sitting back there waiting, wondering when they were going to start calling for the pace. Eventually they got around to it.
1966. Tell us, 6 goals in the grand final, a premiership win. Doesn't get much better than that, does it?
Doesn't get any better at all, no. That was a tremendous year that year.
Shh. Please, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
We come from nowhere. Rank outsiders. Had Geelong West in the grand final and no hope of winning, as I said, but I think they kicked 5 goals for the game and we absolutely fractured them. Yeah, so it was a tremendous year.
And you had the back pocket plumber playing in the centre that year, didn't you?
He was playing in the centre. He wasn't doing a bad job, Sheeds. We sent him on his way after that. He'd done the job here, so we sent him off.
Yeah, his 50th and last game. A good way to finish off, really, wasn't it?
It was a good year for him, yeah. He was a good boy. He learnt and he used that to better himself immensely.
There's going to be an awful problem here in a minute. Ray's gone to open the envelope. If Jack Morgan sees you've opened the envelope in advance, there'll be all sorts of trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, he's been named in the forward pocket. Put your hands together for Barry Pearson. Thanks, Barry. To those aficionados of football and those people who love the Prahran Football Club, I don't think the next selection will come as any surprise. Shh, please. Sorry, down there in the forward pocket, thank you. At full forward in Prahran's team of the century is...
George Hawkins.
Okay. He was widely regarded as the greatest player to represent Prahran. He came from South Yarra. He kicked 657 goals. In 1939, he kicked a record, an Australian record of 164 goals. On 6 times that year, he kicked 12 goals or more. He belted in 16 against the Zebras. And in the 1937 grand final win, he kicked 6 goals, won. The late George Hawkins is named at full forward in Prahran's team of the century, and he's represented by his nephew Ray tonight. Ray, come in here.
Here is the cup from the 37 grand final where Uncle George was the best player on the ground. There it is.
I just had to have a peek in there to see if there was a 10-bob note.
No, I had to bring this up. My brother and I, who are both nephews of George Hawkins, was not only a champion footballer, he was just a champion sportsman. I mean, why we brought this is because we had no doubt whatsoever, that he would be named as the full forward of the century.
No, come back. Come back. I've met Ray. Your name is George.
Yeah, I'm the senior partner.
This George is the older one. Ray's the sprightly youngster. I must admit, back in I think 1973, I did an interview with George on the terraces at Toorak Park. I found him to be a delightful, lovely man.
He was the most, I will say, he was the most unobtrusive man, a humble champion. If you ever had a humble champion, George Hawkins was the one, because he grew up in an era where it wasn't drink that counted, it wasn't cigarette smokes that counted. He was welcomed everywhere because of his ability with everything. He went to play golf once. I will tell this story.
Come over here and tell it so everyone can hear it.
Right. I'll tell this story. He was champion snooker player.
George.
Champion billiard player at the South Yarra Club for years. So they decided to try and inveigle him into golf. Stephen, don't worry. No, we know this. We don't have to be told this. They take him over to Albert Park to play golf. One game of golf in his life. He'd never played a game. He played one game, he shot a 92 and said it was too easy, so he gave it away. That was the kind of guy he was.
That would really piss me off.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Ray and George, go down here, next to Barry. Okay, there was never a doubt about that.
Never a doubt, never a doubt.
He did a lot of time at Stadiums Limited with the wrestling in the old days, George, and he took that fall and he just bounced back up. Okay, Ray, come in here. Come, boys, off you go. Can't get these forwards out, these guys out of the goal square. Shh, please. George will do that again in a minute. Okay, we need another forward pocket. In the other forward pocket.
The other forward pocket, possibly the best rover that ever played for the Prahran Football Club.
Second best.
Thank you, Pete. Is Les Titch White.
Okay, only George Hawkins and Kim Smith have kicked more goals for Prahran than Titch. He kicked 361 goals. In 1932, at the age of 16, he played the first of 229 games as a wingman, but it was as a rover he made his name. He played 133 of a possible 136 games from 33 through to 40, and in 1935 he became the Recorder Cup winner as the best and fairest. Ladies and gentlemen, in the forward pocket, Les Titch White, represented by his grandson tonight, Kai.
Thank you.
Shh, thank you. Kai, come in here. We heard the nephews talk about Uncle George. What about Grandpa Titch?
Well, great, yes, great footballer.
Don't worry, you can sit down. We'll get George and Ray back.
Well, thanks. He was a very kind-hearted, genuine person. The last $10 in his pocket he'd give to someone else.
10 shillings, not $10.
He literally took his shirt off his back for someone in the 40s and walked home with no shirt on his back, so he was a very kind-hearted man, loved by everyone in the White family, and told me that he was a great footballer.
And according to the selectors, the consensus was that he was one of the all-time great 18 players for Prahran. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, in the forward pocket, Les Titch White. Thank you, Ray. Ray's just got a word because he and Ray and George are going to do something afterwards, I think. A couple of drinks and...
Oh, something like that. I'd just like to...
please.
Mention a player, committee man, coach of the Prahran Football Club that I've known did know for 50-odd years. Unfortunately, he's passed away. I'd just like to mention the name Les Bartlett. I knew Les when I first came here. I went away on trips with Les. I watched him on the committee, the selection committee. I saw him coach the thirds for so many years. I can't even remember how long. But what he did for the Prahran Football Club, what he did for the kids, the under-19s, was unbelievable. He'll never be forgotten. Him and his mother, they took those kids home. They fed them, they drove them home after the meetings, and I wish Les was here tonight, but I'm sure wherever he is, he's looking down and he's saying, this is amazing. I've never seen a crowd like this, and to Les, I thank you for all you've done for the Prahran Football Club. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Okay, we're moving into the following division. I need your attention here, please. Shh. Our next presenter played only a dozen games for Prahran, but in the annals of Australian football, he's made his own special niche. He became the Iron Man of AFL footy. He played 244 games in succession with broken arms, broken legs, amputated fingers, concussion, all forms of highly communicable diseases. He won the Brownlow Medal, 4 best and fairest. He's flown back from the United States for tonight's function. To help us with the on-ballers, please welcome the Irishman, Jimmy Steins.
I remember I started the game and I'd look down one end and Glenn Giles was punching his bloke up at centre-back. And Jimmy Durnan was backing him up, and then down the other end was Peter Lowe, and he was having a crack at his full back. And I was standing in the middle going, Jesus Christ, what have I come to here?
Ladies and gentlemen, they said earlier that Kevin Sheedy was Prahran's most famous son. I think he's got a couple of contenders for the title with the Dominator, 4 premierships at Carlton and about 250 million games, and this bloke here who is one of the legends of Australian football. Okay. And I might add one of the great piano. How was the gig in Las Vegas playing the piano? Were you at the Sands?
Mate, I was over in Chicago having a good time.
Okay, that's not what we said last week. Okay, first ruck. The first ruck in Prahran's team of the century is...
Okay, great pleasure to announce Rod Payne.
A fellow Melbourne ruckman. He played in a grand final in his first season at Prahran in 1968. He missed the 1970 premiership. He was back at Melbourne. He returned to Prahran the following year, won the best and fairest. He was the outstanding player in the VFA in 1973. And the understanding he had between Rover Ken Emsell, they dominated the 73 final series. He kicked 7 goals in the second semi. And let's have a look at him in action for just a second.
That's White getting the hand pass to O'Brien. O'Brien getting away with it now. He's had a couple of bounces. Through he goes. There's the hand pass shot over to Emsell. Emsell puts it onto the boot, drives it down into centre half forward. Sits there, takes the mark. Look for Townsend, it was badly placed, put him under pressure. That's turned away now by Nesbitt. It's taken by Emsell again. Emsell drives it down to Apple. Sets himself, doesn't take the mark though, he butters up again. Look at him going, he's going in towards goal, and Stewart's been put down and up by a Sterling.
That wasn't actually Rod Payne kicking the goal. Come in, Rod. Did play a very big part in the production of that goal. There was Emsell, Townsend, all the old Melbourne boys.
Yep.
Come in, Rod. There we go. Fantastic opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, this end down here is very boisterous. Thank you. Rod, the Melbourne connection made life easier to play, playing with Kenny Emsell, Johnny Townsend, who were 2 champion Rovers anyway.
Absolutely they were. Although the Melbourne connection really was in reverse for me, because I actually started at Prahran first and then had an ambition to play league football. Got the opportunity to do that through a switch from St Kilda, a player there.
Can you remember the player?
No, I don't. But unfortunately, the year that I missed was the year they won the premiership in 70. But I did achieve an ambition that I'd always wanted to do. And then I came back, and I just can't tell you how much I enjoyed playing with these guys. And
73, you look at John Townsend, who I think was a dual best and fairest at Melbourne. Kenny Emsell was a premiership rover at Melbourne. Great rovers. It's fantastic. They make you look good, don't they, for a start?
Oh, no, I make them look good, don't
Well, they told me before that they made you look good.
Oh, no, not at all, Steve, no.
The second semi-final, the 7 goals back in 73, was that a personal highlight?
It was. It was a wonderful day, especially when we were underdogs in the event. In a sense, we were actually, we were favourites for that game, but it was a wonderful series. That particular series, I think Kevin maybe said it in his thing before. We absolutely smashed them. We won by something like 23 goals over the 4 games. It was wonderful.
Well, I hope you enjoy tonight, because I think everyone who's been up here has, and they will continue to. Ladies and gentlemen, the first ruck in Prahran's team of the century. It was never in doubt. Rod Payne.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, Ruck Rover in Prahran's Team of the Century is?
Well, it'll be no surprise to people, and I'm sure a popular winner is Kevin Rose.
Thanks, mate. Kevin Rose, after an illustrious 159-game career at Collingwood, he joined Prahran.
Hopefully 5-7-37, and Kevin Rose just shooting his runner out, and Bob Johnson.
Kevin knitted that cardigan that year.
You know, but without players, you haven't got a chance. There's no stage in the latter half of the year did they relent. You know, the players were absolutely tremendous. You know, I just couldn't say enough for them.
There must have been times during the season you were wondering whether you were going to make the four or not.
Yes, there was a bit of doubt for a while, but when we got going, when we settled into a pattern of play, there was no doubt that we were going to get in and we were going to do well.
Right, thanks very much.
The players, you couldn't help it. Thanks very much for your support during the year.
Thank you. Okay, Alec.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Ruck Rover, Mr. Diplomacy, Kevin Rose.
Thank you, Steve.
Kevin, the interview there with Peter Sharp from Channel 10.
I wasn't sure who it was, yeah, showing my age. Yeah.
I was worried about the sideboards.
Pretty good, weren't they?
Oh,
Yeah,
that was 1970, wasn't it?
I would have thought that might be 1973, actually.
Oh, thank God for that. Didn't think we looked that bad in 1970. You came across from Collingwood and you'd played 3 senior games and played in the 58 Premiership against Melbourne.
Yeah.
And then it was so easy, but you played in lots of grand finals, you just couldn't win them. You had to come to Prahran to win another one.
Well, look, winning the Premiership at Prahran and playing in the Premiership team at Prahran, first of all, was just a fantastic experience. I mean, I was fortunate. I came to Prahran at a time when the administration was terrific, and it's continued to be terrific. I think it's worthy of mention that so many football clubs nowadays have folded and left players without their money. And the Prahran Football Club took a long time, but they repaid every cent to every player when they got into financial difficulty some years ago. And I just think that's a fantastic, shows the integrity of the people.
Kev, after your success at Prahran, you became sought after as a VFL coach, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You became sought after as a VFL coach, and you went down to Fitzroy, where most of the... I remember talking to other coaches, and they disliked playing Fitzroy because they knew that you're an innovator, you're a very tough coach, and a very free-thinking coach. Did the Prahran days set you up for that?
Oh, look, like all coaches, you have to start somewhere, and I started at Prahran, and I guess if I'd have had more experience in coaching, we probably would have won that first premiership in '68. So, yeah, sure, once I'd coached Prahran for six and a half years, it did set me up to give it my best shot at Fitzroy. But in my first year at Fitzroy, we just missed the finals. And then in my third year, we finished where most Fitzroy coaches do, down near the bottom of a ladder. So, but coaching, Steve, there's nothing extra special about coaching. You've got to have good administration, you've got to have good players, you've got to build a team, not just necessarily buy a team. You've got to build a team, you've got to pick right, and you've got to get them to conform to the rules, and you've got to find a pattern of play that's a winning pattern of play, and then be a little bit flexible. I mean, who am I talking when you've got the great Kevin Sheedy, you know, one of the all-time great coaches here, and what a great ambassador for the Prahran Football Club.
The difference is that you've won 2 premierships with Prahran and he's won none.
I don't think he's going to consider swapping any of his Essendon premierships. With all due respects to Prahran.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Ruck Rover in Prahran's Team of the Century, an all-time favourite, Kevin Rose. Okay, we've got Rod, and we've got Kevin. We need a nippy little rover to make up the trio. Jim.
And the rover is Ray Harvey.
Okay. He came from Melbourne, joined Prahran in 1950 to begin one of the most auspicious careers in Prahran's history. He won 4 B&Fs, He was so dominant, people would say Prahran's Harvey beat us on his own. But for him, we could have won. He's a dual premiership player. He was up here before. He knows where the microphone is. Ray Harvey, ladies and gentlemen. Ray, I don't know whether your table, Bill's table, the rowdiest.
I think ours is.
Is it?
Yeah, for sure. We just won it.
Talked to you before about the early days. Thank you. Was there a moment that sticks out?
In the premierships?
In anything.
In anything?
Jeez. Sack that waiter.
Well, naturally, the 51 premiership was great. I'd come over from Melbourne and played with Melbourne seconds in 49 premiership, 47 in the Melbourne thirds premiership, and then to come over and in 2 years playing another premiership, it was wonderful. But one that sticks in my mind and I think kept the Prahran Football Club going was the 1959 in the Metropolitan League. We were thrown out of the VFA because of the ground. They said we had to have the ground every week. Seconds couldn't play there. They gave us Como Park and that wasn't good enough for the VFA. But we stuck, a lot of the players stuck with the club in 59. We went to the Metropolitan League. We only got beaten once and we won the premiership. We came back and that's what I believe was one of my highlights because it kicked the Prahran Football Club on again.
Ray, you're not a tall player for a rover, so you must have had something else going. Were you quick?
When you...
Hey, and if you weren't quick, were you dirty? No.
Yeah, well, I admit I was pretty quick over the first 20 yards, but I wasn't that small because in 51 we had stops that were made of...
elevator stops.
Yeah, with the nails in it.
Yeah.
And we had to get picked, not picked, we had to front the VFA, get our height and our weight. So I said to the boot starter, put the biggest stops you've got in my football boots, and I come out as 5'4".
Ladies and gentlemen, the rover in Prahran's team of the century, a fantastic player and a great guy, Ray Harvey. Let's have a look at the lineup. We've met our following division there: Rod Payne, Kevin Rose and Ray Harvey. We have got 6 players to put on the bench and we are going to name them right now. Would you put your hands together for the Irishman, Big Jim, Jimmy Steins. Please welcome the club historian and former secretary, Ray Ryan. How's it going, Ray? Is it all going all right?
Yes, it's going well.
Good. Okay, we're not going to muck around here because the troops are getting restless, especially down in the forward pocket. Okay, how about we go through the first of the interchange players?
Interchange, great pleasure in announcing Kim Smith.
Big Kim. Only the legendary George Hawkins kicked more than Kim's 610 goals. 8 times the leading club goal kicker. He kicked 7-4 in that 78 premiership. He played with Melbourne. Oh, what a guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Kim Smith.
Gets it out to D'Angelo. D'Angelo shoots for goal. And Kim Smith, too strong on the forward line. And look at the fullback, Jeff Welch, remonstrating with umpire Wen, but Smith too strong.
And ladies and gentlemen, I just said to Kim watching that piece of vintage vision, isn't it nice to see him without that shocking little moustache, that dreadful... Thank God you got rid of that, Kim. What happened?
Went grey, that was the problem.
Oh. Now, obviously you would have been a shoo-in for full forward, but in the 30s, George was kicking 160 goals a season. You had a fantastic time in the 70s, though.
Yeah, the 70s were terrific. I mean, I played all my senior football career at Prahran except for 1 year, and that was mainly all through the 70s and early 80s. And yeah, it was a sensational time. I learned so many things there. I guess the only thing I didn't learn was how to handball. But
nothing wrong with that at full forward, is there? We can't all be Jason Dunstall. Kim, the other great full forward of your era, a man of very similar intellect and conversational talent, of course, was Fred Cook down at Port Melbourne.
Yeah, Cookie, actually, contrary to popular belief, Cookie was a lovely guy. We were fortunate enough to play in a number of VFA teams together, and he really was a terrific bloke and kicked, I don't know how many goals.
He still is, actually. He's not
well, he may well be.
He still is, actually.
But of a sensational player. He kicked 1,200 odd goals, which is double what I did, so it's fantastic.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first man on the bench when George gets a bit tired, on comes Kim Smith.
Thanks.
Okay, Ray, let's take it away.
Second interchange player, the wonderful footballer, Bill Coop.
There it is, Bill Coop. He played between 1930 and 1937. He won the Recorder Cup in 1931 after crossing over from Northcote. He played 7 seasons at Prahran and was 3 times the club's best and fairest, and he's represented tonight by his grandson, Brian Watson. Brian, your grandfather, fair age?
Yeah, Bill, actually, I never met Bill. He died, unfortunately, at the age of 44.
Shh, thank you.
Apparently he received an injury at Oakley which damaged his kidneys. He had complications a few years later which weren't quite resolved. It was
so who gets the plaque?
Oh, it's be sitting up on the wall at home, definitely.
Fantastic.
He was a fantastic bloke for the people that do. I never actually met him. My mum died about 5 years ago, otherwise she'd be up here getting this on his behalf. But no, he was a great bloke, and a shame I never met him.
Great recognition of a great player from the 30s. Congratulations.
Thank
well done. Okay, Ray. Oh my gosh. We're getting into the heavy hitters now. The hard men. The third of our interchange players.
The third one is Graham McMahon.
He played in 3 grand finals in his 139-game career. He was the club's leading ruckman of the era, a member of the runaway 1966 Premiership team, and the following year he was appointed captain. Ladies and gentlemen, on the bench, and there he is up there, I think that's a mug shot, Graham McMahon. Graham, we can't rewrite history, but we've got to do something about those photos, don't we?
I didn't think I ever looked that young, to be honest.
1966, it's 36 years ago.
Yes, a long while ago. And can I just say this is a wonderful thrill. I came here tonight with not even expecting in any way, and I've enjoyed meeting some of the players that I went round with, and it's also a thrill for me to see some of those named here tonight. I should say it's a great thrill for me to see Barry Pearson named. Barry and I had a lot of fun. He wore 22 and I wore 2. And when I got reported, I blamed him, and when he got reported, he blamed me. But it's wonderful, it's a great thrill.
Good on you, Graham.
Thank you.
And, you know, these days Graham still keeps his hand in with footy. He's got a footy club out north somewhere, Essendon. Okay, they're doing pretty well. He's one of the top presidents. For those who don't know, for those group down there on the end table who are pouring the wine in, Graham's the president of the Essendon Footy Club and is one of the top administrators in the game. Okay, Ray, let's keep going.
Yes, the next interchange player, another wonderful footballer, John Townsend.
Towner played 163 games. He won 2 best and fairest with Melbourne. He came to Prahran in 1973. What a year. They won the premiership. And when Kevin Rose went to Fitzroy, Towner was appointed captain coach. Here he is in action, taking the one-hander.
And Townsend grabbed, but
lovely play on the left.
Back correctly. Short pass to Smith. Then Smith takes the mark. Within scoring range, about 4 metres.
And after 2 years as captain coach and 2 best and fairests, he decided, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. He decided that Noosa would suit his lifestyle better, and he has been there ever since. Towner, good decision.
Thanks, Steve. My hair actually hasn't gone grey. It's sort of a surfy colour. I've been surfing for the last 30 years, and but can I say also to the other players that have got this award, I think it's absolutely sensational. It's tremendous of Jack and the boys from Prahran to organise this sort of a thing. I didn't really expect to get anything. I'm very proud that I've got it. I know it means a lot to me, but I'm like Kev. In the times that I spent at Prahran, they were the good years. There's a half a dozen, I think there's 7 I counted, blokes that in this team of the century I actually played with. I'd love to have played with the other blokes, but I've played with 7 or 8 of them already. And we were in an era where Prahran was good, and it was a terrific club to be with, and I'm just proud to be a part of it. Thanks.
I've got to tell you, we'll have a couple of beers afterwards. There'll be a lot of, I reckon we'll have a bit of celebrating later. Ray, we're going into the 6-man bench, the Kevin Shooty bench. Let's go to number 5.
Next player had a wonderful record, Ross Thornton.
There he is, number 34, Ross Thornton. And we might just have a little bit of vision here. Great career at Prahran and, of course, at Fitzroy.
Marks, but it'll be trapped here by Thornton. Thornton now will try and get away. He gets a push in the back, and he'll get the free kick. 37 minutes this quarter, so it's a late VFA final today. The VFA finals nearly always provide sensations, and we've had them here today. McGuinness is the player to come in and take a strong mark. Well, it hasn't affected his game, has it? As it goes down.
Okay. Won the club best and fairest in 79, and then went on to Fitzroy, where he played 146 games and won the best and fairest and was vice-captain and all sorts of things. The Junction Oval played a fairly big part in your life, VFA-wise and VFL-wise.
Yeah, the Junction Oval was certainly a big part of my life over many, many years, and I guess the first one was with Fitzroy under-19s, and Kevin was coaching Fitzroy seniors at the time, and he played a big part in me going to Prahran in 75, because Fitzroy were pretty well loaded with small guys who were a lot quicker than I was. But looking at the vision of that grand final, I mean, you know, you're talking 24 years ago now, and by God, doesn't time go by. But and Johnny Townsend was Prahran when I went there in 75, and as he said, you know, for 7 guys or whatever it was that made up this the team of the century, you know, the town I played with, well, there's probably 7, and just goes to show for the era, you know, going right through the late 60s, 70s and into the 80s, how successful Prahran Footy Club goes, or was. And, you know, you look, and Jackie and Ray Ryan and Alfie Blamey, and, you know, Alfie were fantastic when I was there, and, you know, I've got to catch up with you later. You know, the people involved in the club, and I coached back in 1990, and Timmy Haber was there, and these people have put so much time and effort into the club, and have been able to maintain that club and continue the club the way it was, and I'm sure, you know, there's going to be, you know, great success for the club, because the integrity of those people is outstanding, and, you know, I dip my lid to those guys.
Good on you. Ross Thornton. Okay. I think we've got one left in the envelope, Ray. Don't fall over the back like George, for God's sake. George will be back up later to do that trick, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. This is our 6th and final one.
Yes, the final one is Michael Sinney.
Michael Sinney played 69 games between 1991 and 1994. He is Prahran's first and only J.J. Liston medal winner after a succession of recorder trophies.
No, it's tight football. Prahran struggling to get the majors on the board.
Clark over the top, but it's Bolson for Prahran, but his kick was smothered. Sini will come in and kick a goal right on the quarter time, because about 30 minutes have gone, and in fact just a tick over 30 and a half minutes. So that was a timely goal there for the two Blues. They're still in it, Sam.
Yes, there's no doubt about this, and they're in front, in fact. Well, this was just I read the play very well, Michael Sini there, coming off the ruck contest.
Here's Michael. Michael, come up here. Well done, mate. I've got a vague... Shh. Is that his? Is that your table down there?
No, that's the current day players making all the noise down there.
Bad day today, boys? Won't talk about that. Michael, I think you're the youngest who's been up here. I think we've had guys going back into the 40s. The Liston. Fantastic thrill.
Yeah, was it quite a big thrill? 93, I think it was before the last game of the year. We was 2 votes behind David King from North Melbourne, and I was really looking over with Timmy Hable, quite rapt, quite honestly, to come second in the J.J. Liston, and then they read out my name for best on ground. It was just the most amazing experience at the time, so really very thrilling.
The footy club, it's meant a lot to you?
Absolutely, but I haven't really been back since I left in '94. The club folded, but
how on earth did you get picked tonight?
Yeah, good question.
Don't know about that.
Been waiting for an invite.
Oh, okay. We're very happy to have you back. It's very nice to have you on the bench. We've got a very talented bench tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Making up our team, our interchange bench, champions one, champions all. In 1928, I think 1928, Frank Smith won the first Recorder Cup for the best and fairest in the VFA. And his family, represented tonight by Peter Adamson, have that cup with us, and they are going to make a presentation to the football club, to Tim Hable. So I ask Peter and Tim to take over.
Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a very proud night for our family. First of all, for my great uncle and my mother's uncle to be awarded a member of the team of the century. My grandfather was also a committee man, Prahran. He was the chairman of selectors for the reserves. My father played for Prahran Football Club. My brother was also made the final list for the Prahran Football Club. And our family's association goes back into the very early 20s. In 1928, my great uncle Frank Smith won the Recorder Cup, and when he died in 68, 69, I was lucky enough, because of my association with him and being a mascot with the Prahran Thirds when he was the coach, to be given his Recorder Cup. We felt that this was a most appropriate occasion for our family to present this cup to the Prahran Football Club. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to the Prahran Football Club, on the behalf of Frank Smith, my grandfather and my grandmother, my mother and the rest of my family, I'd like to present this 1928 Recorder Cup to the Prahran Football Club.
Thank you very much, Peter. On behalf of the Prahran Football Club, to you and the Smith family, this will have pride of place at Toorak Park. Thank you very much.
Climax of the night. The vice-captain of the team of the century is Tim.
Ray Harvey.
And there are Ray's details, including his Metropolitan League, 1950 to 1960, 206 games, Ray will be up here in a second. The captain of the team of the century, Tim.
I'm sure this guy will get an enormous thrill out of this. Team of the century captain, Paddy Walsh.
The captain and the vice captain walking up here together. And making up this triumvirate tonight is the coach of the team of the century. Tim, no surprise here, really.
The only dual premiership winner in the club's history, Kevin Rose.